This is episode number 149, featuring the legend, the one and only, one of the greatest living artists in the world today, turning 90 this coming December, the amazing John Stobart.
This is the PleinAir Podcast with Eric Rhoads, publisher and founder of PleinAir magazine. In the PleinAir Podcast, we cover the world of outdoor painting. Called PleinAir, the French coined the term, which means open air or outdoors. The French pronounce it plein air. Others say plein air. No matter how you say it, there is a huge movement of artists around the world who are going outdoors to paint. And this show is about that movement. Now, here's your host, author, publisher, and painter, Eric Rhoads.
Thank you, Jim Kipping, and welcome to the PleinAir Podcast. My name is Eric Rhoads. I'm honored you would spend time with me today. Gosh, it's hard to believe that it's going to be Thanksgiving next week. I just can't even believe it. It's like summer was just here, and now Christmas and Thanksgiving, yikes. Anyway, I have a tradition. Thanksgiving Day, my brother-in-law, Scott, and I go painting. He's a painter, I'm a painter. We just go out and we'll paint, the color on the fall color trees. It's going to be nice, and it kind of beats napping and football, though we kind of do a little of that too. Anyway, I think we should all do turkey paintings this year. I think that might be kind of fun. Speaking of November, after all these months, since we announced Denver as the location for the PleinAir convention in the Colorado Rockies, it's been just like on fire. I mean, everybody's going. It's going to be a great time. But the price increases on Black Friday, November 29th. So if you're thinking about going, you haven't got your tickets yet, why pay a higher price when you can get in now? And get it booked. Don't wait till Black Friday because that's a crazy day. Thanksgiving's crazy. Just get it booked right now so that you can get in. Also, we asked the convention people if they could fit more people in, and they said no. So I have a hunch we're going to sell out before we know it. So anyway, think about that if that's of interest to you. If not, that's cool too. Also, I wanted to mention, so I keep people sending me notes and stuff, and so I just want to mention that I'd love to have you follow me on Instagram and on Facebook. Now, Facebook, I've got this dilemma. They limit you to 5,000 people, and I can't do that. And I didn't really want to turn it into a business account. I know I should, but I like to see what other people post, and I can't see that on a business account. So anyway, you can still follow me. I just can't follow you back, so I apologize for that. But check it out. It's Eric Rhoads on Instagram and Facebook. Coming up after the interview, I'm going to be answering some art marketing questions in the Marketing Minute. But let's get right to the legend. John Stobart is in the house, and he's one of the great painters of our lifetime. Turns 90 in December, and he's a great storyteller. Let's get right to the interview. Today is a super honor because I'm always honored when I have a chance to interview a legend, but not only am I interviewing a legend today, I'm interviewing a dear, dear friend. John Stobart, welcome to the PleinAir Podcast.
Well, thank you.
You probably, no pressure here, John, but you probably are going to take the prize for the all-time most number of listens, so you better be good.
Okay. I've got lots of mini notes written down. Just to remind me about certain things that you're going to ask me about. I've got the questions. I hope I'll be able to score,
Well, if you don't, I'm going to have to send your money back.
Okay.
Funny. So, John, you've been doing this for how many years now? How long have you been a painter?
Well, since I came here, and I can't remember what year it was that I came to the States, but I've been, I came because originally came to the States because the London didn't appeal to me, and because I had a colloquial Derby accent, and that slammed doors in front of me.
And tell me why that is for the people in the States who don't understand the regionalisms.
I don't know. They just don't like the colloquial accents. You know, they want everybody to speak like they speak in the BBC.
Would that
in other words, if you have a colloquial accent, it doesn't go down well in London. And that's why I left England, because I thought, well, I'm never going to make it here, so I'll go to Canada, you know. And so I left for Canada. And as soon as I got here, things started to happen. I've had incredible strokes of luck. At each juncture in my life, I've had extraordinary luck, and I don't know what the hell that's about.
Well, I think it's probably more than luck, John, but let's go back to the very beginning in when you decided to go into art school, and I remember you telling me a story about your father and so on. Can you start there?
Oh, absolutely. Well, my dad, who I never really got on with, and my mother had died not in childbirth, but she died of a seizure when she was 7 months pregnant with me. So how I made it out of that mess, I have no idea. And it was never told to me. But I did survive it, and I found that I had an older brother, 2 years older than me, and went from there.
And what year were you born?
I was born 1929.
All right.
December the 29th. Last day of the year.
So what was life like back then during your childhood before you went to art school?
Well, I was born. Derbyshire has got the Derbyshire Dales in it, and we weren't very far from there. So my whole life has been surrounded by fabulous countryside and fabulous small farms. And all of that spelled well for my youth, you know. We used to go there in Dad's car, and we used to go picnicking in the Dales, the Derbyshire Dales, Dovedale, you know, all of that. And it was really very colorful and very fabulous. And I think that colored my ambition to record it, you know.
Had you been exposed to any art at the time when you were a child?
No, I had no. There was, nobody in the family was artistic, except my mother had been, but she had died having me, or before when she was pregnant with me, and and I have a little painting of her somewhere, but I can't find it. I've moved so many times. I know I still have it, but where it is will take years to find. It was a little canal scene, and she was quite good. And I think that, and having been through life as I have, I've realized that it's when you're young that you pick things up, or when you're born, you're born with the extrasensory perception, visual perception that is necessary to be an artist. If you don't have that, I don't think you're going to make it. And I think I was privileged.
All right. Well, I want to challenge that for just a second because I want to understand it from your perspective. Are you saying that unless you're born with innate talent or natural talent, that you cannot learn to become a great artist?
I believe that. I believe you are endowed with the. I don't think everybody can learn it. I think I've proven it in my life, and I did definitely realize when I started painting that I was receiving it very well and doing it very well, and it came easily to me. I do think it's from birth. I'm not sure that it's a good thing for you to tell everybody that, though, but I think it's true.
Well, I certainly have met many artists in my lifetime who at least did not believe they had natural talent. You know, they were not drawing well on their own or not necessarily producing beautiful things to begin with, but maybe they had some innate sense. Maybe people who just are naturally drawn to it have some innate sense.
Right. When I was born, and when I became a child, I was very, very lucky to realize that I had this terrific ability, and I used to draw. My brother, good brother, when I was 6, he said, just before he died, I was drawing all the time. So I was obviously eager to do it, and it came naturally to me.
Well, maybe it's the interest. You know, clearly when somebody draws all the time, they're going to get better. They're going to get better hand-eye coordination. So your brother died at a young age.
He died when he was about 88 or something like that when he died.
Oh, I got the impression he died after you were 6. I'm sorry.
No.
Okay.
No, he died. No, he was 18 months older than me, the only other child in the family.
And when you decided you wanted to go to art school, how did your father react to it? And was he pleased about it? Was that considered?
No, his friends were all saying, you know, how it's a bit risky, and although some of them were, and he had a lot of people at the house, and he was manager of a Boots the Chemist in Derby, which was a signature store. He was very well positioned. He had a wonderful job, and it was a 4-story building, and had all kinds of fancy things in the top floors. It was almost like Abercrombie and Fitch, but it wasn't just a chemist shop, you know. But it was Boots the Chemist's head store in Derby. So, and they had others there too, but his was very, very posh. And but his friends were telling him that it was a bit risky or you know, the general thinking then was that it was a downhill slide towards a bohemian lifestyle, you know. And he was trying to dissuade me from doing it. In fact, he used to say, I remember him saying, he'd say, you're never going to put bread on the table with that kind of work, you know, and looking down at me drawing.
Well, I think you certainly proved him wrong, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Yeah, I did.
So I want to stop you there for just a second, because I think this is a really important point. You know, we all have been fed this myth that artists have to starve because of the Van Gogh story and other such things. You have made a tremendous living. You've become I think, probably a very wealthy man, and have had just a terrific ongoing career. What would you say to a parent, or what would you say to a student who's being discouraged by a parent in the case of pursuing art as a career?
Well, of course, each case is different. I mean, sometimes they are pursuing the wrong one, you know. But I knew by the time he told me that was baloney, and that I wasn't going to be involved in any kind of that thinking. So it didn't affect me.
So it was your state of mind. You weren't going to let anybody tell you anything different.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
So your advice to an artist who's pursuing it is, if you believe in it, follow it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. and practice will make perfect. It's a question of your dynamism. How dynamic are you? How enthused are you? And I was very, very strong on it when I was young, and when I saw opportunities for painting, I knew that they were there, and it just came naturally to me.
Well, you said something else I want to ask you about. I don't mean to interrupt you. I apologize. You said practice makes perfect, but bad practice makes bad. It does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So, what is the best advice to you that you can give somebody who's learning? Is it something about going out and studying under the best, getting into a great school? What would you say now that you have all these years of experience and you can look back? If you were to change anything for the careers of other artists that maybe you've met, what would your recommendation be?
Well, to somehow get lucky and go to the right college or school, and like I did, it was there in Derby because it was every county town in Derby has a college of art. In England has a college of art to make teachers to teach art in schools. That's the point of having them there, and that's the point that they sent me there. They thought that I would make a good art teacher, and so that would be a good career for me. And so they didn't know that I was going to peel off and become a professional artist, which I didn't even know it either.
So your intent originally was to go in to become a teacher.
Yeah, but teaching would have been okay for me too, but I was obviously I had much more ambition than that. And as the years clipped by, it grew on its own as a purpose, as my purpose in life.
Well, you did become a teacher because you had a national television show on PBS. You were talking about your life as an artist and traveling. Tell me about that.
Well, that I'm very, very proud of, and I think it was fabulous what I pulled off there, and going different places and going all over the world. Actually, we went over to England and Hawaii and all over the place with the crew, which wasn't cheap, and I put a lot of money into it. I've always wanted to do that, though. I've always wanted to help other people because having a talent like that, it's very selfish to think you're going to be just using it for yourself. You've got to push it out, and you have tips that you can give other people and do exactly what you're doing, and I think it worked.
So how did your life change once you got on national television? Did it change?
It didn't change a lot. No, I just enjoyed doing it very much, and I enjoyed the travel, but to go off into a different place, I think where you live is where you can really get it going, because where I'm living right now, it's a fabulous place for an artist to settle. You should see out of this house. I think you've been here before, but today it looks fabulous, and I can't believe how lucky I am to have been able to pull this off.
Well, I have been to your home, and I have seen the view out of the back of your home, and you live in a beautiful place, and you have the benefit of living in two places, right? You live in Massachusetts in the summer and Florida in the winter.
Yeah.
So life has been good to you.
Yes, it has. Very, very good. I'm not doing much outdoor painting though anymore because my main thrust is to achieve as much as I can in the more professional side that I've taken, which is to record the the earlier period under sail, the harbour scene under sail, and I had a wonderful stroke of luck by meeting an Australian artist that had been as a boy or as a young man crewing on Australian sailing ships that were still carrying cargo for a profit in his boyhood, at the end of his boyhood, and he picked it all up, of course, and he was very enthusiastic about it, and he was the one that really got me concentrating on it, and I've loved it. I think it's fabulous, and I love the reaction of people to it, and by the way, it really happened in England when I went to London to the Royal Academy schools. It happened there because the Christie's and Sotheby's were both auction houses in London that had galleries right near Piccadilly, and I was in Piccadilly in the Royal Academy schools, and it was just a 10-minute walk, and I could go and look at these paintings that were coming up at auction, and the ones that really got to me were the ones of the period that I'm painting. I thought those were fabulous. They gave me an emotional kick, and it was really fabulous to be able to get on that thread and develop it, and I'm still doing it. I'm doing the Brooklyn Bridge now. Very complicated painting, but it's a really good winner, you know.
Well, I have to say that you and I have had some wonderful experiences together. I remember being at your house in Florida on your 80th birthday. I believe it was your 80th birthday. And you showed me how you use a rigger and how you create these incredibly delicate lines. And I never saw any artist in my life before or since be able to have such a steady hand and without using a straight edge, do an incredible straight line and do the rigging on a sailboat. What's the key to all of that?
Actually, none of them are straight. There's a sag in each one of them, and the sag is always a little bit more at the bottom than it is at the top because of the weight of the line itself. And all those things come into it. And I don't know why it is, how I am able to do that, but I do have a very steady hand, and let's hope it continues. I'm going to be 90.
Well, you let me know, and I'll be there for your 90th birthday.
Okay.
Wait, I just invited myself. That was probably a little inappropriate. Hey, so when you're doing rigging like that, I'll just jump into a technique question very quickly. You obviously need a very fluid paint, and I assume you're using a rigger or a car striping brush. Is that what you're using?
No, I'm actually using a very fine sable brush, which is very difficult to get, and they don't hold much paint. They don't hold enough paint for me, and I've been all over the shop with brushes, and I was but I'm going to stick with it, and it's just a lot of work. It's a lot of repeat work, and but once it's done, it's worth doing. It's worth all the effort.
Now, do you have to have a certain surface quality by the time you start laying rigging in? Do you obviously everything else is probably dry, and then do you have some kind of a layer of varnish or something you put down so that you can get these nice smooth lines?
No, and I should have that. That'd be a very good idea, because it's having to redo it again, and matching the sky behind it is a terrible job, and it's torture. But when you get it right, it's all worth it.
Well, how much torture can painting be, right? At least you're painting.
Yeah.
And do you put a lot of fluid in, some kind of a medium or something into your paint to be able to get that kind of striping in your lines?
You mean to have the paint thick enough so that it'll stay on,
and thin enough so it will move.
It's a pretty technical. It's a technical nightmare, if you want to know the truth. And I can do it, and I've been doing it a long time now. So there's a way that I do it, and you'd almost have to be there when I was doing it to figure out what I do, because I don't know until I stop doing it. I've got to learn on each one how to do it, because it's usually a long time between each painting,
Well, you and I were together at the opening of your show in Palm Beach at the Four Arts, which is a fabulous facility down there. And
that was fabulous.
It was a lifetime of your work together. What did that feel like?
Oh, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. I couldn't believe that those people did so well for me, and it was a fabulous show, and we did a very nice book on the whole thing, and that's done very well. It really. It's too bad it wasn't in New York or somewhere a little bit more accessible to everybody than the Four Arts Society down there.
Well, that's a pretty prominent group of people that were able to go to that show. Yeah,
and there's another big show that's coming up in Palm Beach. It all starts on February the 15th, and it's coming up. It's the major art show of the year. And it's in the convention center.
Right.
You must have been to that once in a while, don't you?
You and I walked through the halls of that show a couple of times together.
Well, that's coming on. That's going to be there in Palm Beach this year, and I'm hoping to finish this painting of Brooklyn Bridge I'm doing, and I'm going to try and get Howard Rays to maybe. Put a record price on it or something like that, because this one's taken longer than any of the others.
Well, and how much time have you been working on that painting, and what do you think the amount of time total will be?
I've been working on it at least 2 years now.
Oh my!
Yeah, from the beginning, from the outset.
If you even got an hourly rate, you'd probably make a lot of money on that.
Yeah. Well, I hope so.
So I want to go. I want to go backwards again and ask you some more questions, because I remember you telling me about the time you sold your first painting.
Oh, that was when I was at the Royal Academy Schools, and I had been going down to Charing Cross, and in actual fact, I decided last night to try and repeat that painting I did, because I thought there may be a possibility that you would come here today. So I've got a painting going that is almost done of that painting that I sold then, because I remember it so clearly, And it was tugboat pulling barges up the river. All the London River is almost like a FedEx Express thing. The ship comes in fully loaded. Then when it unloads into smaller quantity things, and then they all go into barges and different barge tows, like a FedEx thing would, and they go to different parts of the waterways, and they just go off in all directions, and that type of thing. And you tell a story in a painting like that. Anyway, the one that you are asking me about, the particular occasion was that I got friendly with a gallery owner right outside the back of the academy, which was my want to do. I had to make friends. I had to make connections. I'm good at it. I'm good at talking to people, and I'm able to butter them up a little bit. And for some reason or other, and this dealer smoked cigars endlessly all day long, And when he had paintings that needed varnishing, and he had royalty going in there, he didn't want us students in there without paint-stained clothes on. And so he told me that. And so I hardly ever went in. But when I did go in, it was when he was varnishing paintings, because the cigar smoke and the smell of the varnish mixed gave a wonderful odor that was absolutely incredible, and you had to go in to breathe on that a little bit, you know. And so that's the reason I went in, really. And I went in on that particular night, and just to say hello and say goodnight to him, and because he did become quite a friend, and he noticed I had 2 sketches in my satchel that I was wearing, carrying, and he said, well, I said, oh, they're just sketches that I made that I'm keeping, and he said, do you mind if I look at them for a couple of days? I said, no, I don't mind. I'll pick them up on Tuesday or Wednesday or whenever it was. So I left them with him. Well, we're not supposed to get calls when we're in life class and all that in a college like that. And that's what we were when the porter, a little Irish porter that I'd befriended, and those are very good people to know, by the way, somebody like that. If a porter's Irish, you've got to get to know him because they'll work miracles for you.
I'll keep that in mind.
And he came along and he tapped on the wall and he said, Stobart. I said, yes. I said, we're not supposed to take call. He said, oh, Stobart, come out here. You've got, yeah. And so, okay, so I'll come. So I went out, and it was Tooth who smoked these cigars in the gallery, and he was on the phone. And he said, oh, Stobart, he says, can you get over here right now? And I said, I'm painting from the Morrow. He said, Stobart, just get over here, you know. So I decided to, and took a risk because they didn't want us doing this. And I come into the gallery, and there's this very immaculate Canadian lawyer, Queen's Counsel from Toronto. And as soon as I walk in the door, he said, what do you want for this? And I said, and I looked, and it was one of the paintings that Tooth had asked me that he wanted to look at for a few days. And I said, it's not for sale. I'm keeping it for a competition that we get at the Academy. We sometimes get a silver medal or a gold medal, and I like to keep them for that and choose which is the best to put into the show. And and Tooth, I was thought that Tooth was going to die. He'd turned purple, and it was with anger, you know, and that I was screwing up this very important client. And so anyway, the lawyer, in the meantime, he was getting ready for a question. He says, what would you have wanted for it if you had wanted to sell it? And I said, I never had that asked me before. And so I was living on next to nothing in a boarding house that was fabulous. And I was, it was, I don't know, £15 a week or something like that at the time. And so I aimed high, because this thing would take me about an hour and a half or something like that, or less. And he said, I said, well, between £5 and £10.
Oh no!
So it was back in the day when the £5 notes were like sheets of paper, you know, big things. And he got a wallet in a coat pocket that fitted one of these he'd go into easily. And so he took that out, and he splayed this in front of me, 15, whatever it was. And he said, would you take that for it? And I said, well, yes, I think I will. So not only had Tooth made a sale, I had as well, and he became very important to me when I went to Canada. When I emigrated to Canada, he invited me to stay in his penthouse, and he was a member of the Toronto Club, and they even bought a painting from me later on of the first passenger ship up through the St. Lawrence Seaway,
So why did you decide to leave England? Is because you didn't feel you could make any money there?
No, I didn't like the idea that London didn't appreciate my Derby colloquial accent. It's not very appealing.
So if I remember correctly, you started your career by doing paintings that were converted to travel posters of cruise lines or ships. Is that right?
That's not travel posters, but they used my paintings of the new ships to put on their calendars, and they sent me details of the place they wanted me to paint it in, or they had sent me out there. They used to send me out to West Africa. They flew me out, and actually they let me come back by sea, which was much nicer. And on one occasion, they did the same thing to South Africa, and they said, and they put the car, which I had a Rambler Classic station wagon of 1963, and they had that put deck cargo. We'll put that deck cargo for you, and so and I was able to drive all over Africa in this damn thing on the house,
So, John, tell me about the artists that you admire, both deceased artists and living artists.
I love. Well, there are certain artists here that I've come to really appreciate. One was Tom Lovell. He died a while back. He was a terrific friend too. When I was back in England, I met a fellow called Trevor Chamberlain, and he is fabulous. PleinAir wise, he's top notch as far as I'm concerned, and he's done very, very good books. And I don't know whether you've heard of the name.
Yes, I know Trevor. I've spoken to him many years ago, and I'm going to try, like you, I'm going to try to get him to the PleinAir convention and give him an award one day. So maybe you can help me with that. Oh,
I can definitely help you with that.
Outstanding.
He's got to live that long, that's all. And then Bert Wright is his close friend and my close friend, and the three of us will go to Venice together, And so that helps a tremendous amount.
I remember you showing me a painting that Bert Wright did. You showed me over at your house, I believe. And there was quite a story behind that painting, a little bit of a salacious story, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Now, which story was that?
Well,
Help me a little bit.
It was about a returning shipsman or sailor or something of that nature. I remember there being a nude involved, but we'll just leave it at that.
Oh yeah, the nude. This is the nude that's watching her husband. It's a bedroom scene on South Street. The captain has a loft in one of the houses facing south, and in the window it's moonlight, and his ship is going out past that island right below Manhattan that has a fort on it, and it's very clearly that. And he's going by there, and he's in the ship, and she's watching through the window in the moonlight, and so she's naked, and she's moonlight on one side and candlelight on the other side. Looks fabulous, and somebody's all over me to have that painting.
Oh, so that's one you did.
It's one I did, yeah.
Oh, okay. I seem to remember a story about Bert on that. So you and Trevor and Bert go to Venice to paint how often? I know you've had a tradition of doing this.
Oh, probably the last time we went was about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
We must have been probably 4 times.
And why Venice?
Well, because it's so fabulous. It's such an interesting place to go, and wonderful architecture, and just a fabulous place to be. We just love it, and the restaurants and everything are very good, and the painting possibilities are endless. So it sells. The people who go there like to buy paintings of it.
I think you need to go there.
Everything.
You need to go there to celebrate your 90th birthday, although it might be a bit cold in December.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we were talking about artists that you admire. You obviously admire Trevor Chamberlain and Bert Wright, but what about historical artists that have been an influence on you?
Historical artists, I would say that one would be Dali, one would be Corot, the French landscape painter, whose painting of the Villeneuve-les-Avignon, I think it was, the fort in the valley at Villeneuve-les-Avignon in southern France. I found myself with tears in my eyes when I watched it, when I first saw it. It was emotionally dynamite to me, that was, and I've never forgotten that. And I tell you what, if you do get a painting right, and it really does get to somebody, it can do that to you. It can really get you emotionally. And I've noticed that on, one or two very, very forceful occasions, and that I've never forgot. So I never give up, because I think that your painting, if you get it right and you do it properly and you do it with your heart and get it right and do a good job with it, you can really give somebody that's going to give them immense pleasure.
I had that feeling when I visited your show. There was a painting. I don't remember the title of it. I can remember it vividly. It seems as though it was men in a rowboat. Do you remember the painting I'm talking about?
A man in a rowboat.
I think so, and maybe it was a whaler or something. But it had a very.
Was it one of mine?
Yes, it was one of yours at your show.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway, it left that emotional effect with me because it was such a powerful story in the painting.
Oh, that's right. That's what I like as well. It is the storytelling part of it. You can tell a story. I'm doing one at the moment of the ship that was made here in Westport, and it's a small brig. I've got a model of it here, which you may have remember seeing, and I'm showing a picture of the Lovell, which is the Lovell is the end of the land here, where the little whaling port was, and but there's another island that is involved, and if you go up, you can see right down. You look right down from up at this rock, and you can climb the rock and everything. And I've got the lady who is the wife of one of the crew members, and with 2 kids, and the 2 kids are running down the edge of the top of the Lovell and down the grass and near the rocks, and they're wanting to get a glimpse of their dad, who's been in the Arctic for 2 years whaling, and they want to get a glimpse of their dad before he comes, before the ship docks, which will take about an hour. And so I thought that would make a good I think that'll make a good emotional thing, you know.
So John, when you do something like that, you talked about the lady and her two kids. Are you hiring them in as models? Do you photograph them? Do you just draw them, or do you just make it up in your head?
I'll get those done on my own. I've drawn plenty of kids, and I'm pretty good at it, and I think I can do it myself and give it even more power because I'll emphasize certain things about it, you know.
So tell me a little bit about plein air painting, since we're talking to a plein air audience. Obviously, you do a tremendous amount of things in the studio, but plein air has had a big influence on you. When did you begin going outdoors to paint originally? Was this part of school?
It was when I did originally go out painting. It was now where would it be? It was in London, down on the Thames. That's where I started it, and I scored with it so well. And up in, if you go all the way up the Thames, there are communities, and they're beautiful, and they have pathways by the river, and they'll have small boats in the river, and anything like that looks great, you know. if you get it on the right day, and it'll get to them. It'll get to them. It's the things that get to you, you know, that you are best with, though. You know, things that really have impressed you, and that you've always wanted to paint. Those are the things you'll do best with.
Yeah, because you're engaged emotionally with them, and you said you're not doing much plein air work anymore, but throughout your career, how much of your painting has been going outdoors and getting references or doing studies?
Not so much lately.
That's what I understand.
I'm getting up there.
Well, I just think that's an excuse. You have a very able-bodied friend there with you who is willing to carry your equipment.
Oh yeah, I do. Well, Anne's very good too. She's been helping me a lot.
That's what I meant.
When I go out, you know. Yeah.
John, tell me about the Staubach Foundation that you created.
The Staubach Foundation was has gathered quite over quite a long period, but it was when I went into limited edition prints, which was something that I kind of knew was going to succeed because I'd seen it succeed with that outfit in Bond Street in England, and it's not coming to mind the name of it. And they did Montague Dawson, you know, and they did limited edition prints and charged a lot for them, and always did an edition of 250, and never more than that. But when I came here, I thought I'm going to give this a try because I thought it really might work, and particularly with the New York paintings and one or two others, and so I chose 3 subjects and put them, and I found out from the Smithsonian magazine, which I wanted to use, that if you had a third page bleed, it gave you a little bit more extra room for a picture and a little bit more extra room for the wording. So it was $10,000, you know, and I'd never spent that money for anything. Anyway, I decided to plump for it, and I could afford to do it, and I thought it was a good idea to test it out, and so I put this ad in. Well, we nearly got killed in the rush. You should have seen the mail that came back, and then you should have seen the money that came in. That's what made me think, look, this is ridiculous. I don't deserve to get all this. And I thought this was absolutely appalling, the amount of money that it was involved. And so I decided to start the Staubach Foundation to help students who needed a bit of a leg up after they leave college or after they leave the institution where they've been learning art. And because it's then that they're going to be needing a little money to survive that change. As it is, it's not easy for an artist, to get into the business world and start making money. It's not a natural thing for them to do, and it's pretty scary, really. And the money you have to spend is quite big money, and so it's something that's it's only going to work if it really works well. And with me, it worked beautifully. And so I'm very, very grateful. But I'm very happy that it's now growing on its own, bigger every day, with the money that was started with and has been invested in. And so it's going to be, I'm going to leave it in place when I die, and it's one of the greatest things I've done.
That's outstanding. I just love your attitude towards it. So John, reflect just briefly on your career. You've had, you're about to turn 90. You've had a fabulous career. You're obviously in good shape, and I hope you're going to be around for a long time. But looking back, highlights, and did you have any regrets or anything that you would have done differently?
I don't think there is anything, really. I think I did right to leave England. It's much easier here to make money, I think. It's somehow easier. And I think that the attitude here is more open. There's more people that would be thinking of buying something. And so I think that, and it's my luck, I got terribly lucky, and I can't explain it any further, really.
And what are you hoping will be your legacy?
My legacy is that I would want to. I want to empower the culture with what I've done and how I've done it. I want to somehow, exactly what you're doing for me is exactly what we're talking about. I want to empower the culture of art so that it's stronger. It should be much stronger than it is.
So how do we do that?
Because every now and again you get some wacko that's starting to have some idea of the modern art by doing something crazy, And it's not art at all. It's actually design and decoration. And design and decoration is not art, and it misses the point. You have told me in several things you've just said earlier that you understand what art's about. You have an instinct about art, and you know that there's a chance that it could give incredible pleasure to people, and I think it's a wonderful thing, and I'm very, very thrilled about it. But I want to improve the culture by doing what I do, and and keep focusing on that. The culture is here to stay, and the culture is where the pleasure can survive if people become involved in painting, and they'll be doing something to make the culture stronger and to make people more interested in going to museums, for instance, and that type of thing.
And I think I think that you really set me on that path, and I've been trying to use the momentum of the plein air movement and the number of people that are taking it up and painting to engage people and get them out, getting other people painting, but also get them to shows, get them to museums, get them out there. You know, we're in a culture where we're in an Instagram culture, which is a beautiful thing, but seeing a painting on a phone is a whole lot different than seeing it in person, and we've got to get people out to museums and get them a chance to see things in person. It'll change their lives and their perspectives.
Yeah, I'm very astutely aware of the culture when I go to a museum, and there's a funny story here. I went to the museum in Williamstown. Is it the Clark Museum?
Yeah.
Clark, and they've got a very good sergeant there, and they've got some really nice paintings there, and I really enjoyed the show. They have the sergeant of Elvis Duran, right? Right, but this one time I felt I'd seen everything I could, and I was walking through some smaller rooms on my way out, and I suddenly got hit by this very small painting of it was obviously the north coast of France, and it had a particular rock in it in the background that I think I'd seen in another painting, in a Boudin or somebody, you know, and I looked at this painting. I couldn't believe it. It was called Fisherman the Catch. That they'd come in a sailing ship, and they'd beached the sailing ship on a cobbled beach, you know, cobblestones, and there was a crowd around it buying fish, and it was so well done, you know. It was brilliant. I thought it was just absolutely fabulous, you know. And I don't know about Sargent and all the rest. That was good too. But this little thing was only 5 inches by 11. And it was fabulous. I'll send you a picture of it sometime. It doesn't have to be big to be powerful, does it? Oh, no. But this is really good, you know. I wish I could do it. It had everything in it. It had a dog in it that looked great, and some kids, and you know, stuff all over the beach, bits of rusting iron, you know. But this beautiful place, you know, I wanted to be there. And was that a sergeant? Did you say? Oh, it was. I think it was by a Giovanni or some longer name than that. All right. Bondini. Bondini comes to mind. It's very close to that. Okay. Some name very close to that. Anyway, I'll send you one of those, because I'm going to get it copied, and I have a postcard of it, and I want to share it with other people, because it really knocked me out. It won't knock them out because it didn't have the day to set it up, you know. Well, I think that you need to make a copy of it. Then you can share that. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'd love to paint something like that. That would be right up my alley, you know. It's a personal experience, isn't it? That really does it. I think you could do it. Well, John, I'm sad to say that we've run out of time, and I could talk to you for hours and hope to again soon.
But God bless you, man. You are such an inspiration to all of us. You've had just a brilliant career, and it continues. And I just want to be more like you.
Where can I send you a copy of a little magazine called?
I'll tell you what. We'll do is as soon as we're done with the recording, I'll give you an address, and then we'll do that. So, any final thoughts?
Can we do that?
Any final thoughts for our listeners?
Sorry, what was that?
Before we end, do you have any final thoughts, words of encouragement or inspiration for the people listening?
You know, I haven't, because I'm all excited, and I don't know what the hell I'm. You know, I might start forgetting things again.
Oh, you're not. You're fine.
And I've done this without being able to read my own writing, which is very, very small. And so I'm very proud of myself right now.
Well, it's been a wonderful interview, and thank you so much, John. And it's been an absolute pleasure today.
Just tell everybody to stay tuned.
Okay, more to come. I just could talk to John Stobart forever. Man, I am so jazzed that he would honor me with his time on the PleinAir Podcast. I'm just so thankful that he did the interview. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for listening to it. Let's do some marketing stuff.
This is the Marketing Minute with Eric Rhoads, author of the #1 Amazon bestseller, Make More Money Selling Your Art, Proven Techniques to Turn Your Passion into Profit.
In the Marketing Minute, I try to answer your questions. You can, of course, send them to me anytime, eric@pleinairmagazine.com. Here's a question from Christopher in Avalon, California. Wow, that's a beautiful place. Christopher says, is direct mail still a good way to reach potential buyers? And if so, what's the best way to get started? Christopher, you're onto something. You're using your noggin. I appreciate that. Listen, everybody's addicted to social media right now, and there's good reasons. Social media advertising is effective, but it's not the only thing that's effective. And one thing that happens is the prices are going up and up and up and up, and the cost of reaching people on social media, if you do it properly, is really getting expensive now. And the cost of direct mail, it really hasn't changed. The direct mail was one of those things that years ago, before the internet kind of took hold, everybody sent everything by direct mail. And one thing nice about direct mail is you don't have the open rate problem. You know, if you have a compelling envelope or compelling postcard, they're going to see it. You're going to get some message across to them. Chances are you've got a pretty good likelihood of getting seen. So I think direct mail is very effective. I still do it. I don't do it all the time. It's not cheap like email. You got to print and you got to mail. But, you know, the cost of a good customer can be high. And you got to be willing to spend to get a customer. Now, I created this program called Art Marketing in a Box, and there's a whole section in there on direct mail and a whole series of campaigns on direct mail. I have a lady who told me, a few months ago, maybe a year ago, that she just did the direct mail portion, didn't do any of the emails, didn't do any of the newsletters, didn't do the other stuff, and she doubled her business, and she already had a pretty good business. Direct mail campaigns work, but everything in all marketing, the same principles apply. It's about media and message. What media are you using? What message are you sending? And how much frequency are you repeating that? When I do a direct mail, I typically repeat it. I learned something a long time ago from one of my mentors. He said, take the same thing that you mail, wait 3 weeks, and mail it again. Don't change a word. And he said, see what happens. And he was right. About as many people bought the first time as the second time. So what that sometimes means is, you didn't catch them at the right time, or maybe they were going to buy and then they forgot. This comes as a reminder, and then they buy. And also, when you're selling art, it's not necessarily about buy this painting. You're branding yourself, you're getting them familiar with you, you're inviting them to your studio, to your open house or whatever. And then over time, as they're thinking about, I need a birthday, Christmas, Thanksgiving, whatever gift, then they might be thinking about you. Of course, you can put those ideas in their head with direct mail or email or anything else. So I think it's powerful. I talk a lot about it in my book too. And so you can have great success, but remember, everything boils down to, how strong is your copy? How strong is your message? How good are your graphics? Are you getting attention? Or are you going to blend in? A thing that I did in Art Marketing Box definitely doesn't blend in. It's designed to stand out. Some people don't like that. And they kind of come up with something a little bit more bland. And guess what? Bland results. Next question comes from Corey in Phoenix, Arizona, who says, what's the best way to transition from my day job to becoming a full-time artist? And how will I know when I'm ready? Well, Corey, it's an easy answer. The best way to transition from your day job is to start your art job. And when you get your art job to the point where it's equaling the income of your day job, then it's time to start thinking about maybe quitting your day job. I wouldn't do it right away, though. You want to make sure that you've got consistency. What I would do is I'd do it over 3 years, build it, take your time, be patient, and over 3 years, see if you can get to a higher income level or a matching income level as fast as possible, and that's through marketing. And then make sure that you have a machine in place so that you're continuing to get that kind of a level. Because if you can prove to yourself that you can get 2, maybe 3 years of income, not only will you have more income now because you've got your job and that, but you also will have the confidence that, okay, maybe it's time to do it. Now, a friend of mine did this, and what he did is he started his art business, got his level of income up as high as he could get it, where he felt confident. Then he said, okay, I'm going to part-time. And then he went part-time for a year, and then he got his income higher, and then he went to even less part-time and consulting. And then eventually he just bailed out completely on them. He gave them plenty of notice, which is the right thing to do. And in the meantime, he built his career. So, you want to have the income crossing. That is, that income goes away, the other income is replacing it. That makes sense? I think that's the best way to do it. In terms of how will you know when you're ready? When you're making money, quite frankly. I don't recommend pull the plug on your job and, jump in the pool and just hope that it works. It takes time to learn these things. It takes practice. And, you've got somebody else who's funding the startup of your art business by giving you a paycheck. Now, you're going to work harder than you've ever worked in your life because you're going to be working 8 hours or 10 hours a day at your regular job and then 6 or 8 hours a day at your art job for a while, maybe a couple, 3 years. But then, once you've proven that income, you're going to have a lot more confidence, and then that'll make you a lot happier because you've got that income. Anyway, that is the Marketing Minute.
This has been the Marketing Minute with Eric Rhoads. You can learn more at artmarketing.com.
A reminder, one more time, payment plans for the PleinAir convention end at the end of this month, and the price goes up on Black Friday, the 29th. Get it done so you don't lose out on getting there. It's going to be a really cool event. If you've not seen my blog where I talk about art and life and philosophy and lots of other stuff, sometimes some pretty crazy stuff. Anyway, I think we're up to 250,000 people now who are reading that blog. Amazing to me. It's just hard to fathom. Anyway, check it out. You can share it with your friends when you get it. It's called Sunday Coffee. To get your first copy, and you can subscribe for free, it's at coffeewitheric.com. Love doing the podcast. Love talking to artists. Love helping you get information that's helpful to you. I'll see you again sometime, like next week. Thanksgiving week. I wonder if I'm doing Thanksgiving week. I'll have to check on that. Anyway, I hope so. And I'll say it'd be a good time, by the way, to check in. We're like 2.5 years into this, and there's been one every week. So if you want to use the holidays to listen to some of the back ones, it's a great time to do it. My name is Eric Rhoads. I'm the founder and publisher of PleinAir Magazine. And remember, it's a big world out there, and we, together, need to go paint it. I'll see you. Bye.
This has been the PleinAir Podcast with PleinAir Magazine's Eric Rhoads. You can help spread the word about plein air painting by sharing this podcast with your friends. And you can leave a review or subscribe on iTunes so it comes to you every week. And you can even reach Eric by email, eric@pleinairmagazine.com. Be sure to pick up our free ebook, 240 plein air painting tips by some of America's top painters. It's free at pleinairtips.com. Tune in next week for more great interviews. Thanks for listening.